So for those of you who don't know, John Doyle's like this, like that 15-year-old hardcore political, like that 15-year-old hardcore political kid that was in like your high school, and who everyone made fun of, who grew up and instead of growing out of his conservativeness, he started a YouTube channel and just stuck to his guns so hard that he literally will make 2-hour-long anti-pornography screens. And I hope that one day I become a great debater to push people to the left. Honestly, I hope I do too. But, so John Doyle basically did that, and now he's like 21 or something, 22, and he took like a 3-month break from streaming, and I don't know why, but he just put out his first video in ages. So first we're gonna watch the teaser trailer, and then we're gonna watch the video. All right. Y'all ready? Y'all ready for this? Hello, Crazy Hawaiian. How you doing?
Literally go away. The utter state of political discourse with white women.
Do you have a source for that one too? Or
No, because I'm in a chair.
John Doyle is just simply the most talented young voices around.
A disciplined mind is an effective mind.
Democracy is cringe. Read some Aristotle. Let's go!
Wait, what? Wait, what?
No.
Oh, he finally got a new studio. Good for him. But also, let's parse a little bit of what we saw in this video. Okay, we're gonna go through it shot by shot. Did he say democracy is cringe? Read some Aristotle. He did indeed. Yeah, the name of his show is Heck Off Commie, which, that's a name. Wowie. Yeah, so first we've got the Minecraft, Minecraft MAGA, to, I guess, show, get the younger kids in, be hip with the chillins. Little Green Person, thank you for continuing your gift sub. I appreciate that immensely. As someone who needs money to live, thank you so much. Okay, we need new videos. Okay, let's troll the liberals. Is this implying he lives in Minecraft? John, night is coming. You need to get inside. You're just a villager, John. Okay. So let's troll some liberals. Literally go?
Literally
away.
Go away. The utter state of political discourse with white women.
Okay. The utter state of political discourse with white women. John Doyle literally saying, where the white women at in the political discourse. And then going, hoes mad. You know, someone who claims to respect women over here. Okay, return... Okay, so Return of the King? So this is... Oh, he's calling himself the king.
Do you have a source for that?
Tiffany Starr made it into John Doyle's video. You know, I'm actually gonna link her this. So that she knows she got name checked in this. Alright. Real quick. I'm gonna do it real quick here. There we go.
1, 2, or you
No,
just,
because I'm in a chair.
Content kitchen? Wait.
or you
No,
just,
because I'm in a chair.
source for that one too, or you
No,
just,
because I'm in a chair.
do you have a source for that one too, or you
No,
just,
because I'm in a chair.
You can't have sources because you're in a chair?
John Doyle is just simply the most talented young voices around.
A disciplined mind is an effective mind.
Democracy is free. Greece and Aristotle. Let's go! Go.
That was one of the weirdest things I've seen. I think that Aristotle was anti-democratic. Yeah, anti-democracy. Aristotle's key. Yeah. Aristotle's key objection to democracy was that it undermined the rule of law. A functioning state requires that everything is governed by laws. Without this, there's nothing to stop. God damn it. Those who hold the most power doing what they want and tyrannizing everyone else. In a pure democracy, the will of the majority is sovereign, not the law, not the state. If the people decide someone should be executed, they are executed, and no law against capital punishment can stop that. What? I mean, I guess if you were to say that a state should function with, like, everybody voting on every single issue, I guess, but I don't think that's how it can, like, plausibly function. He's just mad because they canceled sports. All right. Wow. John Doyle going big with Heath Ledger's Joker here.
Here we go.
I'm already regretting this. I'm regretting this.
John Doyle in. Heck off, commie.
Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Heck Off Commie. It is good to be back. New studio mode activated, content mode activated. We're very excited about it. I hope you are as well.
He made a new studio and somehow it still looks terrible. Also, imagine having so much spite that you invest in a new studio and then you get a placard that says the future is female and have to scratch out the fee to, like, really emphasize that your point is that women need to know their place. Goodness.
And we're still fine-tuning everything as far as the shots and the lights and the audio goes, all that stuff.
The real reason he delayed the next video is because he needed to grow up and grow out his facial hair. I can't talk, but, you know, my inability to speak actually aids my comedy.
So this probably isn't the ultimate and optimal setup for the new studio, but we'll get it locked down as we go along. We'll make it better. This is not even my final form, and such was the case with the
Jesus Christ, a figure who notably thought that the future was male. No, Jesus Christ, notable woman hater Jesus over here.
last studio as well. So we anticipated this, but the problem is that very few others will take this into account. So got to get used to the new setup, got to tweak the colors and the lights and the angles and stuff as we go along. Maybe one day we'll even unlock camera 3, the forbidden angle. Who knows? But
also, I do really want to know, are these real, like, World War II, like, artifacts, or are they fake props? Because either way, this is a weird framing, and I don't really get it, to be honest.
But anyways, we're going to get into this list here, and I do have to say that I've enjoyed the time off because it's allowed for things to sort of like ferment intellectually, and I'd estimate that I probably got about 9% smarter in the time off.
Yes, I too take vacations and allow my brain to ferment and become smarter. Oh gosh. Also, I don't know, is fermentation like a process that would make your brain smarter? I feel like fermentation wouldn't be a positive thing to happen to your brain. Josie mostly, thank you so much for the follow. Draco Wrath, yes, John Doyle is 100% serious about his fascism, okay? The knife is for all the women that stabbed him in the back. Yeah, it's for all the women who turned him into a fascist by rejecting his advances.
Off, so that's cool. And I'll explain my absence at the end of the video so that we can just get right into it now. But just rest assured that there is a method to my madness. The HOC network has expanded to be larger than ever before. We have people everywhere. We have them in media and government and local government. And we have their attention. We are literally the heck off communist octopus. Just have our tentacles everywhere, which of course is necessary because we're trying to shift our country in the...
Okay, wait, there's like so many layers to John Doyle's, I guess we could call it symbolism.
The HOC network has expanded to be larger than ever before. We have people everywhere. We have them in media and government and local government, and we have their attention. We are literally the heck off communist octopus. Just have...
The use of like propaganda images. Look, I don't know how this is a positive comparison to your network. I'm sorry. Oh, goodness. By the way, I love that this is the United States and Spain and Russia, and then there's just the entirety of South America and the entirety of Africa.
Have our tentacles everywhere, which of course is necessary because we're trying to shift our country in the right direction. And to do that, we need to have the attention of powerful people, along with, of course, making ourselves as powerful as possible. And that's going to get into the first thing that I want to talk about before we get into the list, which is institutional power, the necessity and urgency of institutional power. I'm going to monologue about that for a bit here, and then we'll get into the list of 5 policies that I've aggregated. We're going to do 10 of them at first, but it's been a while, so we're going to have to microdose John Doyle. But some of them might confuse you, some of them you might disagree with, but I will explain why. They are absolutely imperative, and some of them are even below the radar to where we could probably get these into the mainstream discussion and even enacted in certain states within like the next 2 years. But first, we must address the elephant in the room, which is that Father's Day is right around the corner. And we all know that dads are very difficult to...
Okay. I genuinely don't know if he's gonna go into an advertisement here, or if this is a segue into like a men's rights activist take. Let's find out.
Shop for, because male nature typically dictates that if we want something, we just go get it. So every year you're panicking like, what do I get for my dad? I understand this frustration. I do.
By the way, as opposed to women who, I guess if women want something, we don't just go buy it at a store or online. Yeah, male nature is shopping, Frelink.
When I shop for the women in my life, my gifts are so good. I make them cry. They collapse to the ground. The concoction of thoughtfulness, joy, surprise, presentation, it's literally too much for their...
John Doyle has never brought a woman joy.
brains to handle, so they just start short-circuiting. But with dads, it's like, what does this man want that he doesn't already have? I'll tell you what he wants. He wants things that exist as accessories to things that he already has. Your mom has dreams of learning to play the violin and seamstressing. That's not your dad. Your dad doesn't want you to give him a new hobby for Father's Day, because then it's not a gift, it is a chore. Let him do...
Wait, what? Yeah, men don't play violins, guys. Violins are for women. Definitely don't look up the majority of violinists in the world, please.
do his own thing, help out if you can. And given the events of the last 18 months, and frankly the last decade or so, I would wager that your dad is one of the nearly 5 million new gun owners, and maybe even lives in one of the half of states in this country signing constitutional carry into law. And so I must point out to you that one company has emerged as the leader in
Is he
everyday
gonna sell
carry, and that is
guns?
We the People holsters. We the People
I know,
holsters
he's
are
selling
100%
holsters.
American made and custom molded to fit your exact firearm for a quick.
We're gonna skip this. But I honestly would have preferred it if he was selling guns. That would have been marginally cooler, I guess. Maybe.
Promo code Doyle, very
Violence.
epic. Anyways, we are less than a year into the Biden administration, and things are getting much worse at a much quicker pace than we anticipated. Like I'm sure I don't need to remind you, inflation, gas prices, housing bubble, censorship, targeting political opposition with.
Yes, because Joe Biden is responsible for housing prices and inflation after just coming into office this year. That's how it works, you know.
Federal police, etc. The point being that if you are tired of losing and you actually care about your country, then you need to understand and be comfortable with the knowledge that we are going to have to break free from the fake conservatism of the last several decades that got us here in the first place. It does not make any sense to continue to run the same plays that have literally never worked for you at any point, obviously. And so as we get into some of these policies, you might think to yourself, well, now wait a minute, well, that doesn't sound very conservative to me. And there are two things that I will say to that. First,
This is, by the way, John Doyle prepping himself to present the world with his version of, like, populist conservatism, which will come inevitably at the cost of, ditching minority rights, okay? If you're a minority in this country, oh, too bad. I mean, we could have Medicare for all, just, you know, not for those trans folks. You know, that, like, this is what he's gonna be pitching here.
conservatism properly understood is simply that which conserves the traditional American society. That is the ends. It is not an allegiance to abstract principles or means, it is an allegiance to the ends, to actually conserving something. And in case you need a reminder, we have failed to conserve anything on virtually any issue in the last 80 years. I therefore...
You know what? I do have to say, though, watching people like John Doyle talk about how big of losers the conservatives are does make me feel good, you know? It does make me feel good. Like, you know, I think people on the left tend to doomer. And I wish people on the left could take some solace in the fact that people like John Doyle on the right view the last, like, century as a constant struggle against inevitable progress that has crushed them completely and utterly.
Or reject any input from neoconservatives who don't get it yet or who don't have the intellectual capacity to ever get it, because frankly, I understand what's happening, I understand why it's happening, I understand who's behind.
Yeah, also please keep note of, like, how he doesn't go into specifics, and he's not going to, because if he goes into the specifics, he winds up looking extremely bigoted, like, you know, oh, women shouldn't have the right to vote, because I don't think they have enough mental capacity to do so. You know, like, stuff like that.
It because I've done the reading, and that's the difference. Lots of people can only conceptualize conservatism in terms of what they've heard on talk radio or cable television or whatever. And so given that, let me ask you this, and this is the second thing. Why do you think that you were allowed to hear that? And I'm not saying that these people are necessarily bad people or that they sold out or something, but why would the system allow for anything that would pose a challenge to it to be broadcast en masse? Notice how they only started censoring people once there was a legitimate effort to push back against the system, once we had a candidate who was actually a threat to the establishment in this country, to the swamp, to the deep state. And so to all the well-meaning patriots out there, all the good people out there who just want us to return to a libertarian society just like the founding fathers wanted, I understand that and I sympathize with that, but we need to understand that it is literally the same thought process as, well, that wasn't true communism, well, this time we'll get it right. And it's like, well, that wasn't true small government conservatism, this time we'll get it right. Because the reality of the situation is that right now, we're not suffering from the consequences of inauthentic conservatism, but rather we are suffering from the consequences of what we regard to be actual conservatism, which exists to distract and drain time and money from well-meaning patriots who actually care about this country. These people do not play to win, they play for lobbying contracts. Virtually everything that they do is performative, it is not real. Conservatism has existed in this country as basically a form of controlled opposition, which seeks to criticize, mock, and most irresponsibly and dangerously occupy crucial volume and resources without actually doing anything to push back against the left. It is all performative. Take the recent issue. Transgender girls competing in women's sports.
Of course, this is the go-to. This is the. I'm sorry. I'm laughing at what he just said, but I'm also laughing at what Frelenk just said in chat. If we drain the swamp, where will Shrek live? Oh my goodness. Yeah. What will those what about trans women in sports? What about all the evidence we have about trans women in sports, guys? Oh wait. Athletic ability declined on HRT down to marginal levels. Trans women were still faster. But trans women are also taller than cis women. Does that mean we ban tall women from running sports? Whether they're trans or cis? No! Gosh. John Doyle is just the funniest cringe conservative.
Biological men competing in women's sports. It's ridiculous. The left have absolutely lost their minds, folks.
By the way, notice he's not going to be able to present any data on this. He's not going to be able to present data. He's just going to talk about how it's, you know, instinctually, you know it's ridiculous, right? They're biological men. I mean, just think about it. Just think about it. You don't need data.
How can men compete in women's sports? It's not fair to all of our female athletes. Does that ring a bell? We're familiar with the talking points. Let me ask you a question now. How exactly is your day-to-day affected by the collapse of the institution of women's athletics? This is not to say that biological men should be allowed to compete in women's sports, and actually, don't even call them biological men. That's just ceding more ground to the left rhetorically. Why would we need to use biologically as a modifier on the word man? Just say...
John Doyle out here with his big head takes. Why even call them biological men? Just call trans women men. Surely that won't become extremely confusing extremely quickly. Like, again, I do have to point out here, right? Like, I'm sorry, but if, like, this guy walks into a bathroom, okay? If this guy walks into a bathroom, do you think anyone's gonna know what the fuck you're talking about when you're talking about the woman in the bathroom? Do you think anyone's gonna know what you're talking about if you adhere to John Doyle's bigoted policies? Like, for the record, this is a trans man on screen. Do you think if you followed what John Doyle's saying here, that anyone would have any idea what you're talking about? No! Not even if you were really bigoted, you would have no idea. Or, for example, if you saw this person in a bathroom and you were like, hey, what are we gonna do about that man in the bathroom? Do you think anyone would have any idea what you're talking about? No! Because transphobia doesn't make sense!
men. But yeah, this is not to say that men should be allowed to compete in women's sports. This is simply to say that the whole issue is totally performative. I quite frankly cannot think of a less important, less consequential noun on American soil than women's sports. Oh, well, but young girls won't get as many trophies now because
I do love that John Doyle's misogyny overtakes his transphobia here in a way that's incredibly wild.
they have to compete against transgender girls. Hell yeah, that's male excellence right there. Let's go, boys. But seriously, no, I understand the problem. I understand the concerns. I understand the importance of athletics and competition. I do. But my problem is that the discussion in itself is not a serious discussion. The issue of boys with gender identity disorder competing in women's sports is about 10 years downstream of the actual problem.
Notice how the phrase boys with gender identity disorder is extremely unwieldy to say, even compared to the already unwieldy phrase biological men.
Which is that we as a country are entertaining the idea that gender, sex, biology, hormones, it's all unimportant, it's all insignificant. And so what I'll say is this. Yes, I believe that men should be prohibited from participating in women's sports, absolutely.
Wow, you know what? I agree. That's why trans men should compete against cis men, and trans women should compete against cis women.
But I also believe that propagating gender theory and its adjacent strains should be prohibited in any institution receiving public dollars. Because if you don't do that, then you're just going to end up right back there anyways. As it would turn out.
On what grounds, though? Like, why should you not teach something that is backed up by medical science and sociological science and anthropological science? Like from every single field, every field backs up the existence of trans people.
There's no such thing as, well, we just want to be free to do what we want in the privacy of our own home. That was a lie. The slippery slope exists. And if you think that you can deal with something down the mountain without shutting off the water at the—
Wait, John Doyle, it was a lie? Wait, John, how many gay people are you seeing fucking public? Is that a frequent occurrence for you, John Doyle? Because I think maybe you might need to, move or something. You might be in the wrong area if you're just seeing people fucking in public all the time.
the top of the mountain, then you are not a serious person. You are not having a serious discussion. And this is the fundamental problem with the practical application of libertarianism.
Rex
the
Viola
problem isn't
County, thank you for the
necessarily
follow,
ideas,
by the way.
but rather that our current context does not allow for those ideas. Libertarianism, the society that the founding fathers wanted, however you'd like to describe it, it is not possible unless the society is a unified moral and religious people. James
Citation needed.
Madison, the father of the Constitution, said this: if you are going to opt to live and let live, to not seize power, to maintain the power vacuum, then the other people have to agree to do this as well. But the reality of our situation is that the people in our country now, the communists, they don't want to leave that power on the table. They want to take it for themselves and use it against you. This is not debate.
Yeah, the communists. The incredibly powerful and influential Communist Party in the United States of America in 2021. Yeah, they're secretly controlling the government. Good scoop, John Doyle.
They openly admit this. And so the problem with this small government conservatism that we've all been
There are
sold,
dozens
AKA
of us.
the don't do
Literally
anything because
dozens.
then you're just like the enemy, who is winning, by the way, conservatism. The problem isn't that it's a bad idea on paper, just that it's only possible if those forces who seek to destroy that society are suppressed. Because if you allow that fire to sustain itself, it will spread, and before you know it, it'll be too late to stop it. The founding fathers knew this. We knew this before the neoconservatives co-opted the American right and made it into an impotent embarrassment. General Patton, General MacArthur, all of the greatest Americans that you and I could think of, they all knew this. And so I would...
Real talk, Frelink, I really love that you use the Nodders emote. It makes me happy. Your mom unironically thinks the Democrats are communist, but my mom is also an idiot. Yeah, I really wish all these people would get together and try and define communism to each other, because they all have different definitions. It's very frustrating.
Make the argument that it is time for the libertarian types to join forces with us, to follow the logical conclusion of the NAP, of the Gadsden flag, to understand that what they're doing to this country is an act of aggression that will destroy it if you don't do anything about it, and that they are treading on you, and it is time to fight back. It is time to bite them. We have to gain institutional power. We have to wield it. But the response is always, well, but if we use the government, won't they just use it back?
A neoconservative typically endorses like foreign policy that is interventionist and quote unquote free market capitalism.
Understand it is already being used against you. The corporations are being used against you. That means worst case scenario, even according to you, and better believe it, you've done the math. We're just going to be back to square one. And so given that, and given that I'd actually like to be able to raise a family here
Margaret
someday,
Thatcher.
I've concluded that we may as well give it the old college try, right? Let's actually have some balls. Let's have a competent right-wing government for the first time in decades, and frankly, probably ever. Because if we lose, we are going to be regarded as the greatest, most impressively pathetic group of people to ever exist. That we let our
I mean,
square one. And so given that, and given that I'd actually like to be able to raise a family here someday, I've concluded that we may as well give it the old college try, right? Let's actually have some balls. Let's have a competent right-wing government for the first time in decades, and frankly, probably ever. Because if we lose, we are going to be regarded as the greatest, most impressively pathetic group of people to ever exist. That we let our country be destroyed by communists. Literal.
yeah, yeah, you would in fact be regarded as some of the most pathetic people of all time. I agree. Yeah. Absolutely. 100%. I mean, to some degree, you already are. But, yeah. If any progressive movement won in the future, you would look like, you know how, like, we look back now at, like, the 1960s, and we see videos of, like, little black girls trying to go to school for the first time, and there's just, like, a mob of white people following them, yelling the N-word? Yeah, you'd kind of look like those white people yelling at, like, little black girls. You'd kind of look like that, wouldn't you? Pretty pathetic and gross. And you kind of already do. Also, Lily Love Stuff, thank you for gifting a sub to Kai Ji Ro. Offset99, thank you for the follow as well. Can someone send me $6 in Bitcoin? No.
Communists who masturbate to cartoon animals because we were too comfortable watching Netflix and browsing.
Wait, what? Okay.
TikTok, blowing the home court advantage to literal communist perverts. That will be the biggest L in the history of mankind. And so the last thing I'll say about this before we get into the list is that the reason we used to be a much happier, much more unified, much more free country isn't because that was just like the natural state of our existence. It's because to be a communist 100 years ago was almost exactly what it's like to be a right-wing person now in 2021. It's almost 1-to-1. And when I say communist, I'm speaking broadly about the coalition which all of these interest groups are ultimately serving. They're anti-American.
Lily, thank you for subscribing at Tier 1, and thank you for subscribing for the past 7 months. And y'all, if 2 more of you donate a sub or some biddies, we're gonna have a hype train going.
They're anti-family, they're anti-God, they're anti-white, they're degenerate, etc. And actually,
wait, I forgot. John Doyle does use the term degenerate for the gays. So he is just like openly homophobic and thinks that white people are the most oppressed class in society.
Actually, on that note, another important thing that no one talks about, why we were fighting communism. The fight against communism, it wasn't about wanting to be able to, like, you know, run to Walmart at 11 p.m., get a pint of Ben & Jerry's and a phone charger. No, it actually had...
Yeah, no. Lily Love Stuff, thank you for the 5 Tier 1 subs. That's incredibly generous of you. Thank you so much. Yeah, Exia Ross, Vosh called me unadulterated caucasity once. Truly, I am the oppressed class. Also, no, fighting communism wasn't so that you have the right to go to the store and get like a phone charger and a pint of ice cream at like 11 o'clock at night. Fighting communism was so that the Walton family who owns Walmart would be able to continue to own Walmart and continue to be billionaires instead of, you know, workers that work at Walmart collectively owning it and making decisions about how to run it.
very little to do with capitalism. It was about the soul of the nation. It was about the fact that communists were godless, and we knew that. And we knew that without God, we would decay into basically where we are now. There's a reason that we mandated that "In God We Trust" be inscribed on our currency in 1955. Your grandparents probably saw that change happen, and it wasn't because we loved capitalism and consumption, though the irony is that as we've lost God and we've become decadent and greedy, and the money that we so idolize still has that inscription, that's beside the point. The point is that if you showed an American man in the 1950s what his country would become within the next 100 years, he'd want to go back to the drawing board. But anyways, think about that. Why were you never taught about how we used to treat communists the same way that they now treat right-wing people? It's because that is what is necessary to defeat them and actually conserve and protect the nation. They don't want that. They like it when you
Yes, it's true. There's currently communists control Congress, and they are passing laws to blacklist conservatives in Hollywood. Not just like because a bunch of people don't like them, but because the government stepped in and said, you're too conservative to make things in Hollywood. Truly, it is exactly the same.
think that you have principles. I'm gonna beat you in the marketplace of ideas, which, by the way, they'll just kick you out of anyways because
Little green person, thank you very much for gifting a tier 1 sub.
the left can act with total impunity because they have virtually all of the institutional power and you have.
You know what I would love to see? I know I keep pausing this, I'm sorry. I would love to see John Doyle debate a fascist. Right? Like, I would love to see that happen. Because John Doyle likes to pretend he's not a fascist, but I think he would agree on pretty much 99.9% of talking points with an out-and-out fascist. And I would love to see him debate one. I'm not terribly interested in seeing him debate a communist because I don't think he knows what communism is. But I would be interested in seeing him debate a fascist just because it would be an hour of them agreeing on, like, basically ethno-states and genocide.
Have none of it.
Yeah, John Doyle would just agree with him. It would just be a masking, like an unmasking of John Doyle, I think.
Years ago, we used to target communists in the government, in academia, in the media. You would be fired, blacklisted, maybe even charged. Now look where we are. Tables have turned. By the 1960s, they'd taken over academia. By the 2000s, right-wing thought was non-existent. By the 2010s, 2000.
How did they take over academia? And I think you're gonna have to like make a lot of citations here, John, because I went through academia, and I only got taught communism in one class. And it was a class specifically about learning different ways of, like, analyzing texts. So, like, I don't know, being taught about communism one time out of, like, 18 years of schooling? I don't know, not like a really great track record. Lily loves stuff. Thank you very much for gifting a tier 1 tub to Spriggan's Garden. Also, yeah, there we go. If somebody else gifts subs and bits, we'll have a hype train. Goodness. I just want to hear Sam Cedar saying base things. I agree. How long have I been growing my hair out? I haven't gotten a haircut in like 2.5 years. Or 1.5 years? One of those numbers. Before that, it took me like 4 years to grow my hair out. Also, Hill Soyback, thank you for gifting like 100 biddies. Because guess what? Now I get to play our hype train music, and I'm excited. Simping powers activated. I know. You guys got less than a minute though. You better hurry up. Little green person, thank you for the 100 biddies. Can't use that picture.
テーブル囲むお茶の時間に何気なく問い詰めたフェフランあなたはそういう月
20 seconds, y'all. You're not gonna get to see the sexy picture.
消えていった忘れなさいよ涙のダイアリー
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
I'm gonna feel me, me every day 恋の数ほど女は Me, me every day 自由になれるわ
Thank you so much for the subs and gifties. I appreciate it. Thank you for allowing me to continue to make content on this platform. All right. We'll end it there. You think my channel's fun to watch? I'm so glad. I feel like I've been really boring lately, which is why like the average viewership numbers have been declining, but I'm glad you guys like it. Alright, let's finish this John Doyle video.
2010s, any student or faculty who dissented would be targeted. You will be made to conform. They did the same thing with similar timelines in public education, big business, media, Hollywood, etc. And so we have no idea.
Wait, no one's like making lists of conservative professors, but you know what conservatives are doing? Making lists of like lefty professors. That's something that actually happens right now.
How to push back. We are fish in a barrel. There are no right-wing organizations dedicated to getting individuals to strategize and infiltrate these apparatuses to take them back, partially because we're too busy raising $100,000 to totally own AOC because we act like literal children. We have no right-wing George Soros. We don't even have our military anymore. Side note, do not join the military.
No right-wing George Soros. Except every billionaire. Every billionaire. Like, almost every single billionaire donates to Republican and conservative causes because billionaires want conservatives in power. Like, I don't know, like just off the top of my head, the Koch brothers donate to all kinds of conservative platforms. They're the reason Ben Shapiro exists. Yeah, if only there were right-wingers with money. True Spriggan's Garden, thank you for reminding me.
Maybe I'll do a video on that later. But think about this. They're in such firm control over you that they can commit legitimate acts of violence and terrorism, and it will either be ignored or romanticized by the mainstream narrative. But if you listen to federal police...
John Doyle is somebody who would have hated Martin Luther King Jr. Because he would have said that Martin Luther King Jr. was like anti-white and destroying American cities. Because guess what? 75% of Americans back in the day thought that of Martin Luther King Jr., okay? Like, John Doyle is like literally this close from being an out-and-out segregationist, okay?
When they tell you that you can enter a building as long as you don't break anything, they will arrest you and write the history books to compare you to the 9/11 hijackers. And so we essentially have two options: occupy a power structure or die. Like,
yeah, I mean, of course, there's nothing insidious and bad about attacking the capital of the United States. It's totally fine to attack the capital of the United States of America. Apparently, to John Doyle.
literally die. And probably the only way to go about this is to do the same thing that they did. We need to have our own long march through the institutions. We need tens of thousands of disciplined, hyper-focused, patient, highly motivated individuals. Also, to anyone thinking, well, but how do you know your ideas are correct? What if you're wrong and communism's actually correct and better? I don't even know how to answer that. Like, am I supposed to not?
Well, I mean, how you would answer that is explaining why your position is better. That would do it. If you could present a really compelling argument for not being a communist or like private ownership of capital, that would really do it. But you don't, because the arguments for it are pretty bad.
Not be confident in my beliefs, having done the homework? Do you think it's possible for us to know right from wrong? Do you need to see my math? Can I show you a picture of what the other side looks like? Because
Sure. I mean, yeah, when you're talking about like arguing for your ideas, yeah, you have to actually make the argument, John Doyle. You can't just be like, look at the people on the other side, they have dumb hair. It turns out, people, that having bad hair doesn't mean that your ideas are wrong. Also, I have no idea who these people are.
honestly, that's like the most compelling argument at this point. But simply put, the right tends to be more correct because our thinking is fundamentally rooted in reality and nature, and the left tends to be more incorrect because their thinking is fundamentally
Okay, citations needed, though. You need to actually make the argument.
rooted in idealism. It's literally like a rejection of reality and nature. But
Okay, I'll make the same level of argument John Doyle's making here. Being a libertarian socialist is correct because it's correct, and being a capitalist is incorrect because it's incorrect. That's the level of argument he's on here.
But here's the sobering truth, and I wish this weren't the case, but everything throughout history suggests that it is, which is that it's not enough to just be right. You have to have the power to disseminate that truth, because people aren't that smart. They're basically lemmings. Don't believe me? Still think the best ideas win? Okay. Why do so many people all of a sudden think that gender doesn't exist anymore? Because the people who control the narratives told them so.
No one on the left says gender doesn't exist. They say it's a social construct, because we have evidence that shows it's a social construct. I mean, it's like, you don't even have to, like, you know, look at in-depth studies on this. You can just be like, well, surely if it is an immutable characteristic, it would be consistent across all societies and all times. Except it's not. At all.
So, people need to think for themselves, but they don't. We know what's right. We know what works, and we know that we need to trust ourselves.
How do you know these things? Make the arguments for them. What he's doing here is just making claims for 15 minutes without backing any of them up.
To communicate that. The reason this country used to be better wasn't because of freedom and small government. It's because the people who were controlling the narratives weren't evil yet. Like, there has always been narrative control. There always will be. It is inevitable.
Yes, prior to the 1950s, only good people controlled the narrative. My brain cells are revolting and killing each other.
We have to make the choice as to whether we take action to be the ones controlling it so that we can take our country back. Plus, we have God on our side, which is epic. But that being said, here's what scares me. In order to do this successfully, it would take about a century, literally. And that's a...
I do want him to cite how he knows God is on his side. Unless he thinks that this literal bobblehead is God. Which would be pretty funny, I admit.
About how long it took us to get here in the first place anyways. But what that means is that the people who get the ball rolling on this are very likely not going to live to see the results of their work. And it also means that people are going to generally have to work very hard at this and make sacrifices.
I do have to agree. Conservatives who get the ball rolling on fascism won't be living to see the end of their labors. Just because, I don't know, let's take a look at how fascist movements have generally worked out, okay? Nazbol Platform, thank you for the follow.
And there are a few pretty significant impediments that we're going to face that the communists didn't have to face at the time, which are going to make this substantially more difficult for us. The first one is that our time preference and focus have
Oh, Archangel, you sweetie. Thank you for being on the ball with that one. I was just about to do that.
been destroyed as a consequence of capitalism, technology, the Industrial Revolution, etc. Our ability to focus, like our attention span, has literally been crippled by these things, especially in younger people. We can't focus, we can't delay gratification. We want more products, new information, new stimuli, new dopamine now. And that's a huge problem because literally our biological capacity to do something like an institutional march has been compromised by the way our society has been structured. It is
Damn, it's almost like technology allows us to do things faster and more efficiently. And that's not a bad thing, actually.
now less likely than it would have been a century ago for a group of people to have the requisite focus and time preference, etc., that is necessary for
TBJ
something
Rose,
like this
it's
to be
fascism.
successful. Not
Yeah.
even as an indictment of their own character, but just because of the way society has become structured. It breeds this in people. Our society breeds mental illness, but we don't address that. Instead, we just give you your pills to make you feel like a zombie, but we're making progress, I guess, because at least Blue's Clues is pro-LGBT now. And that's a problem too, because people are depressed. They have no motivation, no ambition. They're getting strung out on drugs. They're committing suicide.
Wait, people are committing suicide over Blue's Clues? I don't think people are committing suicide because Blue's Clues accepts gays now. Also, let's be real. Steve has always been a little bit homosexual, and that's okay. But really, he lives with a dog, and he solves mysteries alone in his house. And look, it's just gender reversed cat lady who's a lesbian, okay? Look at his sweaters.
They hate themselves. And this collective spiritual illness is literally a breeding ground for leftism. I know I've explained this before, but leftism properly understood is just mass mobilized mental illness. And I say that not as a baby boomer, like, oh, well, you guys are crazy, you lost your damn mind.
Well, I mean, you are a baby. That is true.
Literally because these people are traumatized and they project that.
Okay, I will compromise with chat. Steve is bisexual. Okay?
Insecurity onto these victim narratives and they crystallize them within their identity. That's why half the time you ask these people to defend their political opinions, they just get emotional, they start crying. It's because it's not actually about politics. It is about spiritual sickness. And so not only are people just generally less motivated to do anything, they're also being bred to fall in line with these narratives and movements.
Notice how he keeps using the word bread and like breeding and that kind of terminology. My dude over here is like this close from being mask off eugenics, okay? This close. And let's be real, eugenicists, they're way more mentally ill than any person I've met, okay? Like, than anyone. They're just like off on their own planet where they're like, yes, we should control everyone else's lives and control who they fuck so that the human race can become Ubermensch or something like that. And I'm sorry, that's more disconnected from reality than any other person I've ever met in my life.
And adjacent to this is the abandonment of God, the lack of belief in anything greater than themselves. So given that, why would they want to dedicate themselves to taking their country back if they're not going to live to see the results? You know, like, well, what's the point? What's in it for them? That's why they humiliate you by disgracing your military, disgracing your flag, putting a clown in the White House. It's a humiliation.
Wait, who disgraces the military? People on the left don't hate the military. They hate the system behind the military. They hate what the military does, but like, the left loves soldiers. Because guess what? One of the best ways to radicalize someone is putting them in the military, okay? A lot of people come out of the military as leftists.
ritual. They want you to give up on your country. They want you to believe that it's not even worth fighting for anymore. And all of these reasons are why when people on the right do discuss a plan to take the country back, it always comes down to this fantasy of a moment of mass awakening. All of a sudden, the left is going to go too far. People are just going to snap out of it. Military is going to drain the swamp. Patriots in control. Trust the plan. No, none of that is going to happen. There is no big moment.
By the way, that was him appealing to the QAnons in his audience.
There is no mass awakening, because to awaken the masses assumes that they're capable of waking up, which they aren't. Stop fantasizing, stop coping, roll up your sleeves, get to work. The light at the end of the tunnel for us has to be the knowledge that if we do our jobs correctly, then we will have statues erected of us in our honor.
I mean, Lurcus Ignoramus, you might want to be careful with that, just because, like, half the people in my community are, like, ex-military people who are lefties.
Will be revered throughout history. Think about that. If you watching this right now, if you manage to do your job effectively, whatever that
Neon
job may
Death,
be in
thank
the
you very
struggle,
much
and
for the
enough
follow.
others do the same, you will
Erked,
literally
hello,
be
lovely.
elevated to the level of the founding fathers in American history a few generations from now. And that's the
Yeah,
greatest
sorry, I
incentive,
was
especially
eating
for young men,
and
assuring them that
tired.
we will cement their legacy, and we will. This is why when we take power, one of the first things that we'll do is put up statues and memorials across the country of great Americans to show that we will honor their efforts and their sacrifice. And that's the correct take, by the way, with the statues coming down in history.
Yeah, exactly. You can hate the military-industrial complex. I just wouldn't recommend directing hate towards soldiers or veterans. That's counterproductive.
History being erased. Not that, well, they're trying to erase our history, but they're trying to erase it because they don't want it repeating itself. They don't want great Americans to
Oh
be
yeah, no, Neon Death, he looks somehow like a bigger baby with the beard, which is weird to me.
remembered, because they don't want to inspire any more great Americans, because they don't want there to be an America anymore. The greatest gift that you could give to future generations is their birthright.
Okay, here you guys want a hot take? Here's my hot take. In order to end imperialism, we have to have steps that lessen imperialism in a way that doesn't negatively impact the world and create power vacuums that make things worse for people. So that might not that doesn't entail like Thanos snapping U.S. military out of every country on Earth. Okay, we have to have an actual plan that doesn't involve that, and I'm not smart enough to have that plan. But I'm just smart enough to know that like it's not enough to just say just take everybody out of every country. Like, no, that would be bad. We need to have a better, smarter way of doing it. We gotta pull out better than our parents. That was a really good joke. That was a really good joke.
Which frankly previous generations failed to give you, and that is the United States of America. Hold on, allow me to shamelessly transition into product mode. Speaking of gifts, have you thought any more about what I said about Father's Day? Did you pick a gift yet? Well, you better figure that out now, because if you don't, you're gonna have to get him a last-minute gift that you'll try to pass off as sincere. Here are some actual examples of last-minute panic purchases I have given to my dad on various occasions. Season 3 of Cheers on DVD, Bop It, Tetris Edition, a 1-ounce silver coin, a book by Nietzsche that I knew he wasn't going to read, etc. The reality is that Father's Day is coming up, and I can promise you that he doesn't want a mug or a tie. When you get your dad a mug or a tie for Father's Day, what you're really saying is, hey dad, I thought you should know that all I care to know about you is that you drink liquids and then vaguely have an interest in whatever's printed on this mug. And when you get your dad a tie, you're saying, hey dad, I thought that you could wear this to my event that you're gonna have to pretend to care about. And you know what happens after that, boys and girls? It means that you're going to find out if your quirky color-changing ceramic mug changes
the
color
Carter.
with battery
Thank you
acid
very
as
much
well.
for the
Or
follow.
if that necktie you picked out can have to 200 pounds. You don't want that. You want to give him a gift that will save him thousands in ammo and take his marksmanship to the next level. You want to get him iTarget Pro.
Okay, I really hope there's another advertisement in this that has, like, a literal gun. Like, he's selling, like, just like a Glock, okay?
iTarget was invented to give law-abiding citizens a cost-effective way to train in the safety and privacy of their own home. No more inconvenient trips to the range or expensive practice ammunition. Just download iTarget's proprietary app, load the laser bullet into your firearm, and start your training experience. Dry fire training will help develop muscle memory.
Alright. Conservative ads are weird, my dudes.
sharpen target reaction speed, sight alignment, trigger function, and more. iTarget Pro comes in all the major calibers, including 223 for your AR, so you can stay sharp with almost
Yeah, it
any
comes with
firearm.
a laser
Go to
bullet.
itargetpro.com and save 10%, plus get free shipping with the offer code Doyle. This is the smartest way for you to practice, and it pays for itself in one day. That is the letter I, targetpro.com, itargetpro.com, offer code Doyle, very epic. Anyways, we will now get into the list of 5 new conservative policies to take our country back, starting with number 1, which is of course that we have to get big tech under control. And I mean seriously under control. When I talk about almost everything that even the most hard-hitting, take no BS conservatives do as just performative, it really is true, especially on issues like big tech, which is one of the most important. So we hear about Republicans take action against big tech, epic win, libs triggered, libs on suicide watch, I'm drinking my leftist tears. And you actually look at like what they're doing, the action, like what the action is, it's legally defining what a social media company is, and then saying that if, well, they ban you, well, they have to let you know about it. So I'll lay out some additional things that should be done legally, and then I'll explain why. In addition to just legally defining what a social media company is and mandating that they notify a user when they're banned, how about this? All constitutional free speech is protected on all platforms. Any platform who censors, shadow bans, or deplatforms someone for constitutional speech will pay a very large fine each time they...
John Doyle taking a bold stance that is pro-pornography. I like it. I like it. Posting my porn is, in fact, free speech. I guess also, I do like that all of you immediately. My last point was going to be that, yeah, this is an infringement on free speech to dictate what someone or a group of people can say or use with their own private platforms. So I thought you guys beat me to the punch there. The government literally restricting people's free speech on their private platforms is in fact a restriction of free speech. But I also do like the I don't like the idea, but like the idea that like private companies should just allow people on their platforms to be like saying the N-word nonstop. I don't know, feels like a weird take to me, John Doyle, but go off, King.
do it. Let's say $1 million, because screw these people. And additionally, all previously banned candidates, independent journalists, activists, etc. must be reinstated unless the company can prove that their speech wasn't constitutional. And this would also protect current users who haven't been affected yet from the same treatment. Moreover, expand this not only into social media platforms, also internet service providers, telecommunications companies, so that they can't do this anymore either. That's basically the idea. We would effectively be guaranteeing First Amendment rights on the internet, which is the new public square.
What are constitutional free speech limits, right? Like, as far as I know, the First Amendment in the Constitution as written doesn't include things like child pornography. Is John Doyle like saying that the ISPs and like social media platforms should allow child pornography? Like literally the main thing against constitutional speech is like inciting violence. I want him to define what he means by constitutional free speech.
Where? Oh, but John, if you expand your rights to include the internet, then eventually the government will use that power to take rights away, even though that's incoherent completely. There is literally no way for expanding First Amendment rights on the internet to come back to bite us. Like, sure, maybe it makes life a little bit harder in Silicon Valley, but they'll adjust. Remember, they're innovators. They'll be just fine without deciding who gets to have an opinion. And you can do this at the state level right now. Just call your people, organize, put pressure on them. We'll put out a script at some point for all of these probably that you guys can use. We'll organize more in the future, but this is absolutely imperative for our future success because, like we said, these platforms are the new public square, and we are being targeted so severely that if we don't use what little power we have left to guarantee ourselves a seat at the table, then we're just going to be deleted from society, and we will have no chance of turning the tide, let alone taking our country back.
Note By the way, if you're ever doomering, again, if you're ever a doomer, if you're ever feeling doomer, watch how scared these conservatives are. Like, he just, like, full on goes, like, yeah, and if we don't succeed on doing, like, these really basic things that we need to do, we're just not gonna exist anymore. So, y'all, we're doing okay. We're doing okay. We're doing a good job. I would like people like John Doyle exiled from society.
So we have to go after big tech, but we have to do so with teeth, with balls, because that's all these people respond to. Force. We're the ones who will be
That's all these people respond to. Balls.
placated by a performative display that is ultimately inconsequential. Oh, we totally owned him by asking him that question. These companies need to be met with force, or else we will all be screwed, blued, and tattooed. Moving on to the second one, probably the most peculiar on the list, but just as important. We need to ban poison from being put in our bodies. Here's a fact I'm not sure if you know. On average, every week, you are ingesting 1 credit card's worth of plastic. Testosterone is down 40% in the last 4 decades. That's down 1% every year. Male sperm count is expected to reach 0 by 2045. We're becoming this sick, confused, androgynous society, and a large part of that is the fact that we're ingesting microplastics, BPA.
Okay, I think we need a citation on sperm will reach 0 by 2045. Sperm reach 0 by 2045. What is WTSP? Tampa Bay? Okay, can we find a better source for this? No more babies. Okay. Shauna Swan says, so... By 2045, most men may no longer be able to reproduce because of the impact of hormone-altering chemicals. Biden put out his feminization camps in a way none of us ever could have predicted, okay? Let's see. Do we have, like, a study? Do we have any... Let's see. Shauna Swan... Sperm... criticism? Let's see. Let's look at Smithsonian. The study's a striking reminder of how much science has to learn about these little wrigglers. I somehow dislike this this description even more than usual. Date on this article? This article's from 2017. Let's see. So, after adjusting for factors like the subject's age and time without ejaculation, they found that the sperm concentration in Western men had fallen from an average of 99 million per milliliter in 1973 to 47.1 million per milliliter in 2011, a 52.4% drop. total sperm counts, or the number of sperm in an entire sample, fell by almost 60%. Yet similar drops were not found in the non-Western samples. Huh. Seems to indicate that this doesn't spell doom for humanity. Seems like people in the non-West are getting it on just fine. Oh no, the Great Replacement is real. Let's see. Ah, there's Shauna Swan. One problem with previous studies is that early research tended to overestimate sperm counts. Some studies also focused on men who visit fertility clinics and already have low sperm counts. Gosh points out that there's also bias in journals towards studies that show a drop in sperm count. Those that did not find a decline might not be published, but the authors of the new study attempted to correct for these potential biases. I've never been particularly convinced by many studies published so far claiming that human sperm counts have declined in the recent past, said Alan Percy, professor of andrology at the University of Sheffield. I guess that it's not Sheffield. Sheffield. What happened to what command? It's links. Links, guys. Also, for the record, sperm count is not considered low until it reaches 15 million or less. So, yeah, men in the West are still considered fertile. We're not living in, like, some, like, children of men type situation, okay? Or, like, last man on... like, why the last man situation? It's not that. Oh, the one Doyle cited? From Green Queen? Let's see. Also, this assumes that sperm counts will continue to drop, which is a giant assumption. I don't know. I don't care about this very much. Toxins are endocrine disrupting chemicals, EDCs, leading to real biological consequences such as increasing miscarriage rates, rising incidences of genital abnormalities among boys, and puberty setting in far earlier for girls than in previous generations. I don't know. Reading the critique on the study talked about in this article does not lead me to worry. And it makes me think that the assumption that this trend will continue to the point where, like, everyone's infertile is just a giant leap in logic. Yeah, also, I don't know. I don't know anything about Countdown. Maybe we should look up... Here, you know what? Countdown, Shanna Swan, criticism. Let's see. Who dis though? True, okay. Now, I'm not saying it wouldn't be good to get chemicals out of our, like, unhealthy chemicals out of our society. Just to be clear. But I don't think that the chemicals are gonna make us all infertile. I don't think that's what's happening. Well, yeah, and Rebind.io, the studies were of Western people. So, like, it's not like humanity would cease to exist at all, even if it were 100% true. I gave Crazy Hawaiian MPA a sword a while ago. America has no sperm. Well, that's obvious from John Doyle existing, okay?
Phthalates, phytoestrogens, etc., etc. Everyone wants to point and laugh. Haha, funny sweat man says frogs are gay. No one wants to talk about the effects of atrazine on studies of South African claw frogs, how it made them effeminate, how it made...
Josie Rose, welcome! How you doing, lovely? I hope you're all having a wonderful evening. We're just watching this wonderful fascist screed from John Doyle. A young child. Hypocritical Luddite. Yes, our brains are smudge. Sludge, I mean. For those of you who don't know who I am, hello everybody. My name is Jack. I am a socialist. I like talking about how to make the world a better place through getting workers control over their workplaces with democracy and decommodification of the things that people need to live in a modern society. Oh, good night. Good night, Hail Soybeck. Cyancia? Hello. Amanda, how are you, lovely?
The males start trying to mate with other males, how
Good
it made
night.
them
Good night,
disinterested in the
Josie.
females. No one wants to talk about that. These chemicals, and there are lots of them, are used in your food packaging, in the plastics that you use to store your food, in the cups and bottles out of which you drink. They're in your shampoos, in your toothpastes. They're in
Infinite
the tap
Captain
water.
51,
They're in
thank
the
you for the
meats,
follow.
eggs, milk. They're getting into your system in more ways than we know, and we need to outright ban them. The great thing about the market breeding innovation is that when we ban things that disrupt the collective endocrine systems of the country, that literally make men more feminine, that are actively lowering their testosterone levels,
Based.
the good thing is that it'll just innovate a new solution that isn't altering our hormones. But this is incredibly important because disrupting your endocrine system makes you unstable. It makes you mentally ill, and it also makes you more feminine. All of these things make you more likely to support the left,
Nice.
to support the narratives.
I support my vegan comrades. I'm not vegan, but I agree with most of the arguments for veganism.
systems of power in this country, all of it. If you want a free, prosperous, happy society, then you must understand.
Yeah, like I'm conflicted on this because I also want to reduce the amount of microplastics in the environment, but not because I think they're turning men into women. Infinite Captain, I do show off my body on occasion, so you might want to take it like half of that respect back. But mostly I just dress in what I'm comfortable in. And sometimes I have like cleavage, but for the most part, I'm pretty humbly dressed, I think. I mean, Josie, I agree with most of the arguments for veganism. I just take a different approach, I think.
And that the mass alteration of your people's hormones is not conducive to that. It makes them weak, it makes them emotional, it makes them depressed, and it...
That's why you need to be on hormone replacement therapy, buddy. John Doyle's making a great argument here. Everyone on hormone replacement therapy. Chip chop chip.
is evil. And arguably, that's why it's allowed to happen and why it's swept under the rug. And this isn't a conspiracy theory, by the way. Like, literally just Google it. It's all publicly available information. It's on the labels. They don't even try to hide this. It's just true, and no one talks about it.
Oh, no, Rebind
But
IO,
anyways,
I think
moving on
this
to number
guy's
3,
just a fascist.
this one's probably going to be the most polarizing, but it's just so true. That is that we need an immigration moratorium. For those unfamiliar, an immigration moratorium means that we don't take in on the net any immigrants.
Yeah, we have to close our borders until we find out what's going on. Remember that thing that Trump did for 4 years and we never found out what was going on? But surely a conservative wouldn't just close the borders forever.
For a period of, let's say, 10 years. Before I explain
Oh,
why, let me
10
just preface by
years?
reminding you that immigration in the way that we have it now
Okay, yeah, well, yeah, conservatives will just win 3 elections in a row. Good luck.
is the greatest gift and weapon that the left has ever been given. The only reason that it is supported by the left is because they know that they can simply import voters to make the right electorally obsolete. And unfortunately, the right supports it too because they get paid off by big business because mass immigration depresses wages. But anyways, there is nothing wrong with opposing something because it will hurt you politically, especially because the only reason that they support it is because it will help them politically. And not only help them, but cement victory for them. And I'll probably
night,
do a whole
Josie.
video on just this topic in the future. Let me know if you want to see that. But for now, what I'll say is this. Much of the immigration pitch in this country appeals to the patriot's ego, and even Ronald Reagan was guilty of this. We hear this rhetoric, how these people just want to come to America because it's just the greatest country in the world, and it's the land of opportunity, and it makes us feel like maybe we still are a great country. And I'm sure a lot of these immigrants who do come here, they absolutely believe that that's the case, and I love that. I sympathize with them, but unfortunately, yet obviously, we have to prioritize the needs of our country and our people, and the reality of the situation is that these immigrants are not assimilating, and they're taking more money out of the system than they put into it.
Citation needed. Because guess what? I have citations that show the opposite, regardless of documentation status.
The typical right-wing line is, well, I like legal immigration. What I don't like is illegal immigration.
It's true. Oh, Derpy Snips. Thank you very much for gifting a sub to Josie Rose. Very true, though. Landlords contribute less to our economy than immigrants. Immigrants are actually doing labor. They're actually doing work. Landlords just own things and siphon money off of people who are doing work.
And then the elites are like, oh, I mean, okay, we'll just do it that way then. Think about it. What
Handy
difference does it
Heathen,
make
thank you very much
if you
for the
get
follow.
1,000 people from El Salvador?
Oh, also, if you came with the raid, please do click the little picture of my face so I get credit for your wonderful, beautiful eyeballs.
Somalia, wherever. You get 1,000 of them at the border. What difference does it make if they run past the entrance or go through it? Seriously, what is the effective difference? A majority of both legal and illegal immigrant households are on welfare, so it seems that while there may be a lot of them who, really
I don't think you can get welfare if you're not like a documented citizen.
just want to make it for themselves in this country, the majority of them seem to want to loot a decaying empire undergoing its managed decline. Oh, but
Wait, how are they looting the decaying empire? I think you need to have some citations here, John.
they help the GDP, John. The GDP, they help it. GDP, John. On paper, yeah, sure.
Yeah, like immigrants provide labor, aren't eligible for federal benefits, and pay like taxes that they don't get benefits on. So like they're a net benefit to the United States, buddy.
That benefits us, though, Americans, because it's estimated that immigration, both legal and illegal, increases the GDP in this country by like 11%, like 1.6 trillion. Cool, right? Guess how much of that increase goes directly to the immigrants themselves in the form of wages and benefits that Americans aren't getting. Fully 97.8%. GDP.
Unless he's talking about like people who are documented immigrants and like residents in the United States who are on like welfare programs, but then like, so they're legally here and they're still benefiting the economy. Seren Kitty, thank you so much for the raid. Raiders, please do hit the little picture of my face below stream so I get credit for your wonderful eyeballs, and do hit the follow button because we're doing a partner push, babies. We actually just cleared 3,300 followers, and I'm very tickled by that number. And I hope that by the end of today's stream we hit 3,333 because that would just tickle my my very particular brain. Scientia, that's okay.
Going up, supposed to benefit us, right? I mean, that's why you said it. No, total benefit is about 0.2% of the GDP, about 35 billion. Oh, but John, when GDP increases, prices decrease, and I know this because Henry Hazlitt told me so in 1946. Okay, cool, irrelevant. I'll tell you why right now. But first, just internalize that there is very little evidence that indicates or suggests that immigration in any form is a substantial benefit to the American people. But that aside, here's why.
That's incorrect. In fact, I can cite you studies that show that's incorrect. Was it this one? Ah, here we go. Here we go. Yeah, this is the one I was looking for. Center for the United States and Mexico, by Jose Ivan Rodriguez Sanchez, from May 2020. Undocumented immigrants in Texas, a cost-benefit assessment. And can go through this. I've gone through this on stream before, I believe. Let's go to their conclusions, though. We have a conclusion section. Conclusion. Immigration from... I should probably put it on screen. Immigration reform in the United States appears nearly impossible today, as it has been for 20 years. The probabilities of it happening may, however, increase if we deal first and separately with the undocumented population through an understanding of what they contribute to the U.S. economy. This report strengthens the argument that those who would advocate for allowing them to stay in the United States under certain conditions. The Texas case demonstrates that they add more than they take from the economy. In effect, undocumented residents have a positive influence and impact on the economy, since they pay taxes and fees and constitute an important part of the labor market. Even if we consider the costs of undocumented immigrants to the state of Texas, the benefits outweigh the costs. These costs are mainly in education, healthcare, and imprisonment. Though imprisonment is nearly a choice of the state itself. This report estimates that the revenue collected from undocumented immigrants exceeds what the state spent on them, resulting in a net benefit of approximately $420.9 million in fiscal year 2018. This means that for every dollar spent on public services for undocumented immigrants, they provide $1.21 in fiscal revenue for the state of Texas, meaning that essentially there's a 20% return on investment into undocumented immigrants. The economic impact analysis reinforces this, since the deportation of all undocumented workers would create a loss of $171.9 billion. So, if we let them stay, and if we stopped imprisoning them, we would actually make imprisoning them just for being undocumented. We would actually be bringing in far more than 420.9 million per year. And the cost of deporting all of them would be in the hundreds of billions. So, like, and that's just in Texas. That's just in Texas. So, like, I don't know. I guess, get fucked, John Doyle? 'Cause you're wrong? Scientia, thank you so much for the 200 bits.
Economic arguments about immigration are irrelevant. 19 out of 20 illegal immigrants will vote for Democrats. 9 out of 10 legal immigrants will vote for Democrats.
Undocumented immigrants can't vote. What is this argument?
This is a fact. We'll have a problem when liberals move from California to Texas, but they keep voting for the same policies that ruined where they came from in the first place. Yeah, what do you think is going to happen here? Do you think that they're going to totally abandon their culture? Do you think that they're going to get a white picket fence and start reading Thomas Paine and John Stuart Mill and the Federalist Papers? Well, I'm okay with immigrants as long as they assimilate. They're not assimilating. They don't want...
They do, actually. Immigrants, whether documented or undocumented, have lower rates of crime than native populations.
To assimilate. Well, but my family immigrated and we're assimilated. That's great. I'm happy, good. But we're not talking about you. We're talking about very strong tendencies, not exceptions. 3 generations of immigrants later in this country, they're still not assimilated. They actually are even more in support of Democrats. They only assimilate to American culture to the degree...
Yeah, I wonder why... It's a real mystery. I wonder why immigrants wouldn't want to generally support conservatives who fucking hate immigrants. I wonder why.
Agree that American culture promotes its own destruction, degeneracy, communism, hatred of white people, etc. And that's the biggest thing. If a
Degeneracy, by the way, is just his buzzword for queer people.
majority of these immigrants say they're against free speech, they're against gun rights, etc. And a vast majority of them are voting for Democrats who literally want to erase our country. How could you ever think that they're assimilating?
Exactly, Handy Heathen. When he says assimilating, he just means voting Republican.
That's
voting Republican and race mixing. Very correct, Irked. By the way, John Doyle's rhetoric is explicitly pro-white and anti-everyone else.
That's irresponsible. Democrats are trying to uproot the country, and they're only a few elections away from giving all of these illegal aliens the ability to vote. And then they're just going to bring in more. And then we will never win an election again. And even if you wanted to change these people's minds, you don't have the institutional power to do that as quickly as would be necessary, even if it were possible. That's why we need an immigration moratorium. We need 10 years, net zero immigration. You want to bring over your spouse or your kids, that's fine. Welcome, welcome. But net zero. Also cut...
Oh, yeah. A lot of immigrants do embrace conservatism, but usually, usually the rule of thumb is that they generally don't. Like, there's definitely a large section of immigrants that do embrace conservatives, but the vast majority support democratic policy.
Welfare benefits from illegals, let them repatriate. And I know there's a lot of immigrants who are right-wing, who love America, and that's great. I love that, but unfortunately, as I'm sure they know, the vast majority are aiding in the destruction of America. In 10 years, if we get our country on the right track again, sure, we can reconfigure our policies, but right now, what we're doing is absolutely unsustainable. And the final point is this: to be unfailingly pro-immigration is necessarily...
Well, let's be clear, guys. Cubans in America are more conservative. Cubans elsewhere,
to be
Maybe a little bit
unpatriotic.
other-
Because if
a
you
little
believe
bit
that
different.
America needs other people from other countries to teach America how to create art or music or food or enterprise or technology, you simply haven't been paying attention.
Yeah, America would never take ideas on how to make things from other places. It's not like movie cameras were invented by the French. It's not like African Americans invented jazz and then rock and roll. And then real America stole it. It's not like, other things were made elsewhere, and the reason America was great was that it became a melting pot for all kinds of different things to mix together in interesting and creative ways. But sure, America just did it all by itself. Because magic, I guess. I guess America's just magic to John Doyle.
What you are saying is that other people are better than Americans and we need them to come in and help improve us because we just aren't good or capable by ourselves. The fact is that we didn't build the most advanced and prosperous society by pouring in 2 million people a year from the third world. We did it with our own people. America.
Well, we did. It just wasn't from the third world. It was from Italy, Germany, England, etc., Norway, Scandinavia. After World War II, a lot of people wanted to come to America because, just something about not living in a country that just got bombed to shit was really appealing. But sure, yeah, we did it all by ourselves. No immigrants ever did anything great in America. Don't look into the history of Albert Einstein. Don't look into the history of any of some of our greatest thinkers. Don't look into who built our infrastructure. Don't look into who built up our cities. Don't look into that, guys.
Americans are
Tina,
smart. We can do the jobs.
hello.
We can run our own country. We're still pioneers. And after we get things under control, after we start taking care of our own people, after we restore the American dream, which is dead, maybe we can start opening it back up to other people. Oh, well, but John, Steve Jobs was an immigrant. The guy who invented Google was an immigrant. Yeah, and now Google wants to kick you off the internet for having the wrong opinion, for being to the...
Checkmate, liberals. Let's see, what else have immigrants invented? Let's do some brainstorming here. What have U.S. immigrants invented? Oh, what? Let's see. Donuts. Hamburgers. Basketball. Video games. The telephone. Wait. What have immigrants ever done for the United States? Other than make donuts. And hamburgers. And American cheese. And basketball. And video games. And the telephone. And blue jeans. Blue jeans were made by Levi Strauss, a Bavarian immigrant. I didn't know Alexander Graham Bell was actually Scottish. That's actually really interesting. And Ralph Baer was a German. James Naismith was a Canadian immigrant, and he invented basketball. That's cool. Russian immigrant Adolf Levitt brought us the wonderful, almost human automatic donut machine in 1920, which turned out perfectly whole donuts at an unprecedented pace. Okay, so I don't think you can give him credit for inventing donuts. just mass production of donuts, maybe. Pronounced Naismith. I don't care. I don't watch basketball. But sure, immigrants have never invented anything in the United States, okay?
The right of Hillary Clinton. So look where that got us. But seriously, those types of people are 1 in a billion, specks of dust in a haystack. If you take 1,000 Americans and 1,000 people representative of the current immigration proportions, lock each in a separate baseball stadium, tell them how to figure out, tell them to figure out how to get to Mars or to create Google
What?
2, Americans win. We're still the best.
What? What? Wait, I need him to repeat that.
Even if you wanted to change these people's minds, you don't have the institutional power to do that as quickly as would be necessary, even if it were possible. That's why we need an immigration moratorium. We need 10 years, net zero immigration. You want to bring over your spouse or your kid,
Hey, tenderizer.
that's fine. Welcome, welcome, but net zero. Also cut welfare benefits from illegals, let them repatriate. And I know there's a lot of immigrants who
Oh, I
are
went back
right-wing
way too far.
that other people are better than Americans, and we need them to come in and help improve us because we just aren't good or capable by ourselves. The fact is that
America's a small segment of the entire world, and there are people around the world. Like, if it's America versus the world, the rest of the world has like more people to pull experts from.
we didn't build the most advanced and prosperous society by pouring in 2 million people a year from the third world. We did it with our own people. Americans are smart. We can do the jobs. We can run our own country. We're still pioneers. And after we
good
get
night,
things under
crazy
control,
Hawaiian.
after we start taking care of our own people, after we restore the American dream, which is dead, maybe we can start opening it back up to other people. Oh, well, but John, Steve Jobs was an immigrant. The
Still
guy
too
who
far back.
specks of dust in a haystack. If you take 1,000 Americans and 1,000 people representative of the current immigration proportions, lock each in a separate baseball stadium, tell them how to figure out, or tell them to figure out how to get to Mars or to create
Wait.
1,000 Americans and 1,000 people representative of the current immigration proportions.
Okay, fun fact, if you take just like 1,000 people who are representative of America, of like Americans at large, and you take 1,000 people that represent the current immigration proportions, you're gonna have more smart people in the current immigration proportions, because often immigration self-selects for wealth. That's why, like, Nigerian immigrants to America are some of the wealthiest people in America, and they have some of the highest IQ rates in America. It's because they're some of the most educated people in America. Like, yeah, if you're an immigrant, you have the money to immigrate. This argument is silly.
Lock each in a separate baseball stadium, tell them how to figure out, or tell them to figure out how to get to Mars or to create Google 2. Americans win. We're still the best. Let's start acting like it again. And you may not like it, but
I would love to see this experiment enacted. I want 1,000 average Americans to be locked in a stadium together and be tasked with getting to Mars.
is nonetheless true. To take our country back, we need an immigration moratorium. Oh, but the economic benefit, which you just explained, wasn't even significant. Oh, you mean the economy that's
do you guys remember? Here, maybe I can find a clip of it on YouTube. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. Here. So, as a little bit of background, guys, in 2016, there was a show called Eden, where it basically took a bunch of random people and they were tasked with creating a society. And it didn't go well. Fun fact. no one knew that the show had been canceled. The show was canceled, and they just left these people to live in the woods for an entire year. Like, yeah, no. Yeah, let me look this up real quick. Here. In March 2017, 10 contestants had survived the full year experiment, but arrived home to find that the show had been cancelled after 4 episodes. The UK press picked up that many of the contestants left the site due to disillusionment with the experiment, as well as tales of apparent near starvation. Which, what we saw was the last day where their house literally burned down. Did they survive? Yeah. Yeah, they did. But yeah, sure, you know, just take a bunch of average people, put them in a stadium, they'll get to Mars in no time. Alright?
Going to be destroyed when they inevitably vote Democrats into office and eventually solidify a one-party state, that economy. We can't assimilate millions of people from other countries each year if we can't even assimilate our own children so that they grow up to not hate their country. And right now we're struggling with that, with even that. But anyways, speaking of the children, we know that the backbone of society is the family unit. And so we need some strong pro-family, pro-child policies. Our fertility rate is currently below replacement. We need to start having more kids. I personally think
that's not true.
It would be kind of cool if we bred the left out of existence. And so to do that, we need to make it easier.
Again, John Doyle is a eugenicist. Like, he's just straight up a eugenicist. We need to breed the left out of existence. Like, lol.
For people to start families and to have lots of kids and provide for and protect those families. What are some ways we could do that? Ending no-fault divorce, rejecting any zoning laws that seek to end single-family home neighborhoods, thereby protecting the suburbs. This will...
Wait, we have to end no-fault divorce? Meaning what? You can't get a divorce unless your spouse, like, hits you? What?
Out of existence. And so to do that, we need to make it easier for people to start families and to have lots of kids and provide for and protect those families. What are some ways we could do that? Ending no-fault divorce, rejecting any zoning laws that seek to end single-family home neighborhoods, thereby protecting the suburbs. This will defend expanding the right to carry for all U.S. citizens.
Wait, how would having single-family neighborhoods protect the family? It's way more efficient and, like, cost-effective to have, like, buildings that people can live in, like apartment complexes. Let's just, you know, decommodify them.
Constitutional carry, very epic, banning abortions, ending Common Core, implementing pro-family, pro-America education, banning hormone treatment, puberty blockers, all of that stuff for minors, banning drag queen story hour in public libraries, increasing tax incentives to get married and have children, reaffirming that marriage can only...
Okay, I do want to correct myself. The U.S. birth rate did fall 4% in 2020, and fell below the statistical replacement rate of 2,100 births per 1,000 women, down to 1,637.5 births per 1,000 women. Now, one might say, oh no, the horror. Soon there won't be Americans because no one will be having babies. Or you could be like, maybe we could have more immigration. That would make it totally fine, wouldn't it now?
only be between a man and a woman, and when we take power, and we will, cleanse...
Wait, how... Okay, wait. How would... So you want to... Okay, so strip marriage rights of gays. How is that going to result in more children? Exactly? Like, how does that... How does that result in more children?
Cleansing the system of all of its wasteful spending. Then we can redirect some of that money to things that are actually like cool, like a national honor, a medal for mothers and fathers who have stayed together and raised...
John Doyle thinks we don't have enough money to have to give a family a national medal? What? What? John Doyle, we must fully fund the military-industrial complex. Also, John Doyle, please, sir, we don't have enough money to make one medal for a family.
4 or more children, that'd be sick. That'd be sick. Do that, and then like on the child's 18th birthday, we'll pay off your mortgage or something. Our country can't have a future if it doesn't have families. Who's gonna carry the torch?
What?
More babies. Not tomorrow, not after breakfast, now. I'm gonna get all the smartest people I know into an office. I'm gonna figure out how to make it easier for young Americans to get married and have children. We're banning OnlyFans. And it's not canceling student debt. It's not guaranteed housing. Duh.
Wait, John Doyle, I thought you were in favor of freedom of speech. I thought that one of your big things was protecting constitutional free speech. You know? Like the right of a site like OnlyFans to exist, perhaps.
Relax, lib. My least favorite trend on the left is when they pretend to care about family and community just because they want free stuff. Like, I know you people. You literally hide in your room during family gatherings.
Oh yeah, no, Punky Gal, no. I'm not kidding when I say that John Doyle is a fascist. He 100% is. Fun fact, the Soviet Union gave out medals to women for having 10 plus kids. Only one man has ever earned it. For how many kids he adopted. This sounds pretty communist to me. Ooh, dang. Yeah, what next, John? Banning crime?
Or you just don't even show up. You are not family oriented. You are cringe. You are spiritually ill. But anyways, last one. This one is epic. We need a woke tax. I'm not even kidding. We'll come up with some like PR strategy like, oh, the Marketplace Neutrality Act.
Wait, you want to tax people for being gay? Wait, what?
Whereas the consumer should be free to consume without political messaging, whatever. Something to appeal to the centrists, something to appeal to the people who still think that bipartisanship is an option at this point. But the end result will literally be a tax, a financial penalty whenever a big corporation, not a small business, a big corporation that primarily sells a product or service that is not related to politics does something that either promotes a political message or agenda or discriminates against one. Coca-Cola teaches people to be less white. Pay up, jackass.
Wait. Wait, John, how are people gonna make movies, John? Or television? Or music? Wait. You can't have a political message. What is that? Okay, so literally, what about social media platforms? What about social media platforms that have people expressing political ideas on them? With their free speech. What about movies, John? Who is this? This is John Doyle, a fascist.
Companies move out of Georgia because they're
you're a company run by black people? You're getting taxed for being too woke by not having enough whites. Like that's literally where his ideology is.
Illegal voting measures and restricting abortions. Pay up.
I mean, John Doyle, does this mean that your show, Heck Off Commie, an inherently political message, would have to pay a woke tax? Would you have to pay a woke tax because you have World War II memorabilia on your wall? And you have a Jesus statue? And a bunch of phrases on your screen? What is this?
Something of that nature. Well, but John, who gets to decide that? Literally me and you and all of our friends. Like, we're going to take power, and we get...
Okay, yeah. Again, this is just literal fascism, where he's like, who gets to decide that? Me and you and all of our friends, aka the Nazis. Like that's basically what he's saying here. Back in my day, fascism was gay. Yeah.
Get to call the shots, and frankly, we're being generous. But seriously, woke taxes are necessary to take the culture back, because the reality is that a large part of American culture is rooted in consumerism. And that needs to be at the very least neutral, so as to not reinforce the leftist narratives that are being propagated by every other aspect.
I can't get over the irony of him saying that anything that propagates a political message should be taxed, while talking in front of a sign that literally says "Heck Off Commie" and "The future is male." and talking about and having like a little phrase on his computer that talks about the worst thing about censorship. Like, oh goodness.
Aspect of the culture. And with all these policies, they're not set in stone. Most of them don't even exist yet, but the purpose is to get the ball rolling here, get the gears turning. There are very smart, capable people working in right-wing politics or looking to get involved in right-wing politics. Many of them are watching these videos.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so only individuals would be able to make music. No large companies. I guess this would get rid of Marvel movies. No Marvel movies. No OnlyFans. Only conservative country music, okay?
And I trust them to do the right thing when the time comes. But anyways, I said I'd explain the absence, but we've been going for a while here, so I'll just say that the time was well spent. We are very well equipped to keep moving and growing in the future. We have big plans. I thank you all for your patience. I was running PsyOps in the Discord, which is back. Shh, it's super secret. The left can't shut it down this time, though. But you can try. Humor my boys. They're Marines, the ones running it. But yeah, I was intentionally spreading misinformation in the community, like, face it, boys. John's not coming back. You really think it was a coincidence that the last video was how to remain optimistic? Like, you know, I was bored. We do a little psyopping. It's called We Do a Little Psyopping. But everyone had faith. They trusted the process. They were like, nah, he wouldn't leave us like that. And it's so true. It is so true. So thank you all for your patience. The Content Kitchen is now officially up and running. Let's go. Hey guys, if you like this video, leave it a thumbs up, leave it a comment, subscribe to the channel.
That was more insane than his usual videos.